Howdy folks, I'm Brian, and today we're going to take a look at Am I a Jerk Filtered? So our next story is titled, Am I a Jerk for Banning Alcohol at My Wedding? And they are being judged as not the jerk. Me and my fiance are planning to get married in 2021. She has a lot of ideas for the wedding, things she wants, etc. I'm happy to do whatever she wants, as I've never been too fussy about a wedding. The only thing that I'm 100% set on is that I want it to be an alcohol-free event. Both of my parents have a dodgy relationship with alcohol. They aren't abusive or bad drunks, but they like to drink too much. The same can be said for a number of my other guests, and while I mentioned this idea to my fiancée, she said she's fine with the idea if she is allowed to have 2 drinks. One for the toast and one for her favorite drink. We agreed that this would be fine. When the idea of an alcohol-free wedding is brought up to her parents, they laughed off the idea and said they would just bring some bottles of their own then. They know how I barely drink, they know how my parents can be, and I've told them how much I don't want them to bring it, but they argued that it's their daughter's special day and they will provide a drink if they want to. Am I a jerk for impacting their enjoyment of their daughter's wedding? I have no issue with them drinking on the day. I know that they can handle themselves, but I don't want to complicate things by having a list of people who can and can't drink and then having to tell my parents I don't want them to. Edit to clarify, the toast will be provided for everyone, a single glass of champagne or equivalent. For all. Sorry, this was not made clear. Also, I will not be drinking. Some people have somehow read that I will be getting drunk and everyone else is sober. A dry wedding or not, I will not be drinking at all. So I'm going to kind of agree here for the most part with Reddit and say that you're not a jerk, but I also don't think you should be policing your parents and whether or not they drink. It sounds like you don't like to drink and so you don't want to have alcohol at the wedding. It's fine if you don't like to drink and don't want alcohol at the wedding, but I don't think you should be making excuses for your parents. Sometimes people act badly when they drink, but it doesn't also sound like your parents actually have that bad of a relationship with alcohol. You say they're not angry drunks, you say they're not, bad, but you just don't like how they get when they're drunk. And again, you can voice this to your parents, you can ask them to pretty please control themselves, but I think it's kind of inappropriate to want to police them specifically. With that said, I don't know for sure. Maybe they are actually really bad drunks and you don't want to deal with that at your wedding, and that's actually understandable as well. So I definitely can understand, though, not wanting to have alcohol at a wedding, especially if you think that people will misbehave. You don't want your wedding day ruined. You don't want people to arrive and then, make fools of themselves and to end up ruining things. So I do understand that. And I'm not saying that you're entirely wrong here, but it sounds like your basically only reason why you don't want you want alcohol at your wedding is because you don't want your parents to drink. So just something to consider. I don't think you're a jerk here. I think it's pretty reasonable, but I also don't think you should necessarily be policing your parents. So that's my assessment. Our next post is, will I be a jerk if I reported a coworker for lying about her overtime? So me and this coworker are cool. Work friends, similar age. She has a new baby, less than 1 year old. This is relevant later. We had a huge, for the public, specialty clinic last week. Medical facility. Open early, close late. That kind of thing. My boss offered my coworker to come in at 7:30 rather than 6 like the rest of us, since she brings her son into daycare. We normally open at 8. Coworker offered, and I saw her arrive at 7:30. She also left at 4:30 rather than 5 to go pick up her son too. I don't really care about special treatment for working parents. You gotta take care of your kids. But I was talking to her and she mentioned she looked forward to that juicy 3-hour overtime. I was like, don't you mean 1 hour? But she said that she put in the same hours as everyone else. Our supervisors were so busy, no one saw when she came in or left but me. Apparently, since she had already submitted her time, it was already approved. Would it be a jerk move for me to report this? We get double time, not time and a half, specialty clinic overtime. This is a fireable offense, but I don't like her lying about her hours when a lot of us did show up, leave early and late. She's nice and normally a great worker and has helped a lot before, and I don't want to report her and have her end up jobless. I know COVID and money have been tough for everyone, but this seems unfair. Would I be in the wrong here if I reported it? Oh, this is such a bad situation that she's put you in. I'm going to say that no, you technically wouldn't be a jerk for reporting them, but I also don't know that it's really your place to babysit them or tell them what they should or shouldn't do. I would talk to your coworker and say strongly that you would encourage them not to do this, and that if this time you're not going to say anything, but next time you will report them and make sure they know that you're serious about it. I think that because it's a fireable offense and that because she is basically, it's wrong for her to steal. It's wrong for her to steal hours, but also this is, probably a hard time on her. She may be looking forward to that money, and I think that maybe she thinks that you're going to get her back because you two are cool. And unfortunately, it's really put you into a bad position, like I've said, and I think it's put you into an unfair position. So you need to make it abundantly clear to them that you're not going to do this, and that if they do this again, that you're not going to cover for them. And I think it's really important to phrase it like that. Say, I'm not going to cover for you. I'm not going to, lie for you. In the future, if you do this, then I'm just going to report you. And I think that's probably the right move here. But again, I don't know all the details of the situation. I can't necessarily blame you for wanting to report them, but also it seems like if this is something that could get them fired and they really depend on this job, then they could be in a really tough spot. So that's my thoughts. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Ruining My Sister's Wedding? Hear me out, this happened 3 years ago, and I'm still getting called out for it from time to time. Some backstory. Me, I'm a 25-year-old male, and my girlfriend, 47-year-old female, called Abby. We had been dating for over a year at the time. Yes, I understand that this is quite a bit of an age gap, and we are very happy. Both of families have been pretty supportive. My cousins, friends, aunties, and uncles love her. When I started dating Abby, I was always butting heads with my mom and sister about it. I would have to consistently remind them that it's my life, that I'm an adult, and if my relationship were to fail, it's for me to see it through and for you guys to stay out of it. They backed off a bit. One day, my sister invites me to have lunch with her and to pick up the invitation, which she said would have a +1. I go to have lunch with her, it's just the two of us. She hands me an invitation and a gift from my brother-in-law asking me to be a groomsman. She asked me if I'm coming to the wedding and will be a groomsman. I say yes. I open the invitation and it's not a +1. My sister says, "What will our relatives think of you two? They may not approve. Let me know if you are sure you want to bring her." Abby was upset when I told her and thought it would be best if she didn't go, but she still made me go. My sister's wedding day, "Where's Abby?" was all I heard. I would make generic excuses like she was sick or something. I'm mingling with my relatives and new in-laws, and my relatives who I haven't seen in a while come up to me. They all start saying things like, "Where's Abby?" "I'm so glad you and her are happy and that you found someone. Her daughter is so cute. I was really hoping that you were going to bring her. We see you two on social media and wanted to meet her." These were the relatives that my sister claimed would be prejudiced. I was glad to know that they didn't mind the relationship I was in, but at the same time I was fuming at my sister. I straight up leave without saying a word to anyone except my new brother-in-law. I tell him that I need to leave. After cocktail hour, we were supposed to get ready to announce the bridesmaids, groomsmen, and the bride and groom. I figured I was doing my sister a favor because I couldn't fake a smile and look happy in the pictures anymore. My phone starts blowing up from my sister and relatives with texts and calls asking me where I went. I don't reply to any of this, and I drive home. My cousin calls me the next day saying he overheard my sister flipping out because there was a bridesman without a groomsman. My sister calls me afterward fuming, saying that you ruined my wedding because you weren't there to be announced with the bridesmaid and everyone was asking where you went. I told her about my interaction with the prejudiced relatives and that I told her that the only prejudiced relatives I have are you and Mom, and you manipulated me in not bringing Abby because you just couldn't say you didn't want her there. She began crying over the phone, so I hung up. Am I the jerk? So I think what your sister did here was really wrong. She coerced you into not bringing Abby along, and then for the entire time you were there, you kept being reminded of not having Abby with you. And to make matters worse, it was expected that you two were going to be there. And I think that really bothered you and put you into a really bad position. On top of that, you couldn't just tell people the real reason why Abby wasn't there because you didn't want to ruin the day. And I think after a certain point, people can only take so much, and I think that you reached your limit, and maybe you didn't handle it the best with how you left, but also I can't blame you for leaving that way. So in the end, I don't think you're a jerk, and I think that your sister was, and I think in some ways she kind of made her bed and now has to sleep in it. So yeah, good luck. All right, our last story is titled, Will I be a jerk for blocking my parents from being involved with my wedding plans because they're not paying? And Reddit's judged this one as a jerk, so let's find out. I plan on having my wedding next spring. It's going to be a cultural wedding with people flying in from Nigeria. If you know anything about Nigeria and the culture of weddings, they're so close that it's impossible to do on the cheap, but we're going to do what we can and make a positive and authentic experience without living beyond our means. My fiance's side is Nigerian and is willing to help out with some of the costs. It's super kind of them. I'm not asking them, it's not expected from them, nor is it traditional for the groom's side to help out. Although in 2020, tradition is mostly irrelevant, even if there is a cultural dynamics in play. I never asked my parents for any financial contribution to the wedding, but I did reach out to my mom recently to confirm that she's not paying a dime. We need to set a serious budget so costs don't balloon. When I got engaged, she adopted a silly, joking tone about how she had to clothe and feed my siblings and I for XX years, and she's not going to pay a dime for our wedding. I chatted with her recently, and it's the same tone, no contribution. It's apparently comical that I even brought it up. She has no problem being transparent with my mother-in-law that they're not helping. No problem. I'm not entitled to anything. I just wanted to confirm that she is indeed serious and okay with the other side knowing that. When I'm actively planning stuff with my mother-in-law and my mom asked a few questions like how things are going, what venue we are interested in, etc., I don't want to share in the planning with her. I plan on just ignoring questions and respectfully telling her don't worry about it at any inquiry. There's nothing she needs to know because she's not involved in the process, and this is the same approach I would take with anyone else not having an active role, the groom's side, groomsmen, bridesmaid, flower girls, etc., and she is just a guest. My parents also don't want to be involved with any special aspects of the event and have no special roles or requirements, so all they need to do is show up like everyone else. Will I be basically the jerk for blowing my mom off every time she inquires about the event because my parents are financially not contributing and have no active role? Surprisingly, I'm actually not going to really side with Reddit on this one. Maybe a little bit, but honestly, your parents aren't going to be involved with the wedding or the plans, and they don't want to be, it sounds like. So why should they know anything about it? And I mean, maybe it's a little petty. Maybe you can say things like, oh yeah, we're doing this or that. But it really just sounds like they don't want to be involved and they don't want to be active parts. And I think the way you phrased it is poor. This isn't necessarily because they don't want to pay. It's because it sounds like they don't want to actually be a part of this wedding. Now, maybe I misread something or didn't read through it correctly, but as far as I'm reading this, it sounds like they just don't want to be a part. So, if they don't want to be involved and they don't want to have an active role in the wedding, then sure. If you're doing it simply because they're not paying, then that's a little petty and maybe a little jerkish. That's kind of my thoughts. So it really depends on your end motivations. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you all later.